Good evening. Welcome to the Planning and Development Advisory meeting for participation and in person at the Township Municipal Office for October 8th, 2024. There'll be two meetings tonight. One will be the committee adjustment, and the second will be the advisory committee. There'll be three minor variance applications for consideration by the committee of adjustment, and there will be three zoning amendments for the advisory committee to provide comments to council. Please note that the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic means are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means or consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. So I'll do a roll call. Start with Paul Sega. Present. Jim McCarthy. Amanda Knight. Chris Picard. Present. And I, Councilor John Spruce, I'm present as well. And the attendance to my right is Lynn Banks, our Secretary Treasurer, and to her right is Laura Emery, our Committee Coordinator. So we'll take a few seconds of a moment of reflection this morning. Thank you. So, would you please read the confirmation agenda?
That the committee approves the October 8th, 2024 agenda as circulated.
Now, move in a second, please. Move by Chris, second by Paul, all in favor? Okay, next time, disclosure of continuing interest. Do you have any?
I just declared for 4660 Side Road 10.
Yeah, and what's the nature of the continuing interest?
I own a property within 500 meters of the subject.
Thank you. Okay, next item is approval of minutes of read the resolution, please.
That the committee of adjustment approves the minutes from the meeting held on September 10th, 2024.
Okay, move it. Amanda, second. Paul, all in favor? All right, so let's move into the application for minor variance or permission under Section 45 of Planning Act. So we'll proceed into the hearing part of the meeting, and the purpose of this hearing is to inform and provide the public with the opportunity to ask questions or express their views with respect to a minor variance before us today. Township requests you please notify the secretary of the committee by email at lbanks@postfinch.ca. If you wish to be on record and like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding this specific application. The format of this hearing is as follows. I will read the application to be heard and ask staff to display the relevant information. Staff will present information report specifically outline the purpose of the application, summarizing compliance to the township notification submission requirements, and outlining staff comments. The applicant will present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarifications, ask questions, express their views on the proposal, and you will have 10 minutes to speak. Following this, the members of the committee will likewise can obtain clarification and ask questions. And if a member wishes to add a condition, I'll ask for a vote of position. The committee will deliberate the application and any approved conditions and will render a decision, and the decision will be subject to a 20-day appeal period. So we'll go into the first one. It's D13 RAW Rosley Curtis, 41 Lake Avenue, CD West. Plus the variance request will provide relief from section 4.4.2, table 4.1 of the Township Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2018-2023 as amended, requesting permission to allow a 2-meter setback of the front yard for a proposed shed instead of 6 meters. Okay, Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, and submission requirements, outline staff, agency, and public comments and recommendations?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met, and the following comments were received. First order of advice that since this property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, The application can be screened out and does not require a section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act. They further noted that they may provide comments on any future applications subject to this property, given the vulnerable areas. The township's public works and bylaw departments had no comments. Our building department said they had no concerns from a building code perspective, but did note that they will need to obtain a building permit prior to commencing construction. Fire department has advised that they reviewed the minor variance and completed a site inspection to determine if proximity to other structures on adjacent properties would pose a fire exposure concern. And further noted that they have no concerns with the application. County of Wellington, Planning Department and the County of Wellington Roads Department had no concerns, and the GRCA had no comments.
Okay, thank you. So would the owner applicant please come forward to the table and make the application, present the application rather?
Good evening, Curtis Walmsley, the applicant, and with me tonight, my wife, Gwen, sorry, Heather Gates, sorry. She's the proponent of the application,
Okay,
and also co-owner of the property.
okay, Brian, so please go ahead and do the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you for hearing us tonight. The reason we've asked for this setback variance is because on the property, there is no other location that we could put a shed. The layout of the yard actually includes our septic bed and our propane and the buried hydro line. So this is really the only spot for it. The fire services gentleman who came by actually supported that and commented that that was the only place for it. Further to that, I'm not sure if you have the pictures, but really when you look at our property, Lake Ave is the way it's constructed and the way that the other buildings that currently exist along that laneway. Answer my question. It's more of a laneway as opposed to a road. On the north side of the road is McClintock Trailer Park, and all of the structures are less than 2 meters away from the property line. And on our side of the road, the south side of Lake Ave, it's mostly fences and other garages and structures, really treated as a backyard area, which is why we consider it more of a laneway. Multiple permanent structures and also some temporary structures are either in line with the 2 meter line or they're even closer to the road. Furthermore, we have a small road that's visible on the aerial picture. There's like a small road that comes off of Lake Ave that actually is where our home faces. So we consider what is a backyard or what you're calling a front yard because it faces Lake Ave. It's really a side yard or a backyard. We consider this much like a backyard. All the homes are situated that way, and that's the main entrance into it.
Okay, so we give the public the opportunity, or any registrants, in the audience to speak.
Should there be any members of the audience online who want to speak to this application, please just use the raise your hand function on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Hearing nothing, Mr. Chair.
Okay, are there any members of the audience who would like to speak? No? Okay, let's turn it over to, the committee members. Okay, Paul.
I'm fine on this, thank you.
Good. 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 Amanda?
Forward, I guess, if you're looking at strictly the numbers, the responsibility, it may be a little bit hard, but it can be more than the character of the neighborhood.
No concerns. Good. Thanks, Chris. And I don't have any concerns as well. So, all right, so we're going to be, voting on it. So, again, I'm just asking, very that either approve or forward or defer, taking into consideration, for, what should be minor variance. So let's go around the table. Paul? Approved. Amanda? Chris? Approved. And I approve as well. Okay, and it's subject to 20 days.
Resolution
Just wanted to do that, please.
that the minor variance decision is made by the committee be approved with no conditions.
Movement. Chris, second Paul, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, move on to the next one, 7.2, D13, and they are, Montanello John, 4660, 503 North. Whereas the variance requested to provide relief in section 4.2A I of Council Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2018-023, as amended to allow increased maximum total floor area of an additional residential unit to be 69.63 of the total floor area of the principal dwelling instead of 45% as requested. So, understand that staff recommending that this be deferred. I was wondering if we can get the agent on participate. Nancy, you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nancy. Thank you. So, the staff have recommended that this be deferred on the basis that there's not the drawings that are available are not as actually seen or as depicted not depicted actually on site. So rather than going through this entire process, I would like to suggest that we defer. If you have any comments, we can go through the process, but in the end, we'll still have the face for the three questions. So the members want to approve or defer.
Good evening. It's unfortunate we received these comments very late in the process, but I agree there seems to be clear disagreement between building department and the owner of the property. So a deferral is appropriate, and we're working with staff to set up a meeting in the next couple of weeks to resolve this matter and then come back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. So let's go around the table. Again, so without approval, hold to defer. So with you, Tom. I'm sorry. Amanda? Yes. No, defer as well. Okay. Thank you. And when do you have a date when this project can be heard?
It will be probably in our November meeting. I did set up a meeting with our building staff, Nancy, myself, and our clerk. I believe it is next week,
The
Or the
21st.
21st, in the at 10 o'clock. So after that, we hope to have everything resolved and
Okay.
we can bring it back.
So do you want to read the resolution, please?
Certainly. That the minor variance decision as made by the committee be deferred until the following items have been provided to the town have been reviewed. That an updated ground floor plan of the garage/ARU is provided to reflect current built conditions and accurate zoning bylaw relief calculations to the satisfaction of each building official. And that a building permit be obtained and final for the finished basement of the principal dwelling unit as the current built conditions of the principal dwelling unit, an essential part of the minor variance application for the ARU calculation of habitable room.
Okay, we'll move it. Amanda, second, Chris, all in favor? Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to the, final, variance application, 7.3, 213-RFS, RFS Real Estate Holdings Limited, 6, Weiner Road. Whereas the variance requested would provide relief from section 4.612.8 of the Township Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2018/23, as amended, to permit outdoor storage in the front yard at a setback of 13 meters from a lot line abutting the street instead of the rear or interior side yard, and not closer than 20 meters from the lot line abutting the street. And whereas variance requested will provide relief from 4.22A III of the Township zoning bylaw, and that an outdoor storage area of 33% and to not exceed the total ground floor area of the principal buildings on the lot, instead of not exceeding the lesser 25% of the total lot area or the total ground floor area of the principal building on the lot. And whereas a variance request will provide relief from section 4.24.2.c of the Township zoning bylaw to permit shipping containers to be located in the previous side yard instead of the rear yard. And whereas the variance requested will provide relief from section 5.4.4.A.II of the Township zoning bylaw to permit a detached loading space for the use of the new building instead of the loading spaces abutting the building for which the loading space is provided. Okay, so, Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outline staff, agency, and public comments and recommendations?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met and the following comments were received. Source Water had no comment. The Township's Public Works Bylaw and Building Departments had no concerns with the application. The GRCA had no comment. Township's Fire and Rescue have no concerns with the minor variance request, provided access to all buildings is maintained at all times for the emergency response vehicles. County Roads had no comment. The MTO noted that it is beyond their limits of permit control and therefore approvals and permits will not be required. And county planning staff have said that they note that the proposed variance is for the development of the subject property, and overall they do not have any concerns with the proposed minor variance.
Okay, so would, you want applicants please come forward and, state your name.
So I'm Rachel Bossy, and then, address is 72 Victoria Street South in Kitchener.
My name is Chris Dyson, the project manager of the facilities development for Seth Homes.
Thank you. So would you please make the application?
Sure, so we've requested the variances that you outlined, so.
Excuse me, for the review of the actual drawing of the whole compliance.
Yep.
Okay, so
So as you can see, this shows the 5 variances that are requested. The areas that are in green are related to the areas that outdoor storage is permitted. So the original building, which is kind of, if you go down from the light blue, the existing building, that was built in 2004. So the front yard was the entire, most of the property. So given the shape and where the front yard is defined, there was very limited areas for outdoor storage. So then there's a new building that is the existing garage that's to the,
It's between variance, variance 4, just so that the blue section of variance 4.
that becomes kind of the new, in front of that's the new front yard. So in terms of the outdoor storage, there's 3 separate areas. So the blue area, behind the existing garage, that's where the reefers are stored. So those are put into kind of transport trucks so that they can be refrigerated. And then the area that's kind of the middle area of the blue, that's where the reefers, where the trucks have had the reefers installed, they're just waiting there and then they get picked up. And then the larger area is where customers, those trucks are waiting to have the reefers installed. So there's been a shift in industrial where this zone allows like a very high lot coverage, but then there's a low amount of outdoor storage, but there's been a shift in industry where people smaller buildings. And I think that's in keeping with kind of the intent and the spirit of the industrial area. And it's not out of character for the other industrial uses within the area. Kind of looking at visiting the site and looking around, it's very in keeping with the overall character. So that's for variance 1, and then variance 2 is to reduce the setback. What we're proposing in that pink area is that there'll be screening in different trees. So we have the landscape architect that will actually provide a street enhancement, so it'll look better than what's currently there. So that's proposed, so that's going down from 20 meters to 13. And that will have landscaping, which was a condition of staff, which we have no issue with, because we're proposing that anyway, and that will be implemented through site plan approval. And then variance number 1, the green is for the outdoor to be in the front yard. But again, the way this site functions and how it was designed, like that curve isn't really the front yard, it's kind of further down, because that's where the buildings are facing. So although that's categorically different, that's not how the site functions.
And we don't allow access on, open.
And then the variance to, for the shipping container, there's just the variance number 4, it's like a slight, the building is 5 meters, and then that one is just over 3 meters from the lot line, so it's just a slight that it's in that side yard. And then variance number 5 is for the loading space. It's like a portable loading space that they use on site, so it's not adjacent to the building, but it's been there for years and it functions for the business very, very well.
All right, so let's turn it over to public. So, are there any, people, online would like to?
If should there be anyone online who wants to speak to this application, please just use the raise your hand function on the toolbar. I'm hearing nothing, Mr. Chair.
Are there any, members of the audience who like to speak? Okay, none. Okay, fair enough. We'll turn it over to, members of the committee. Start with you, Paul.
I'm okay on this, thank you.
Right.
Fundamentally, I'm in support of it as well. Rachel alluded to it in her presentation, the requirements for site plan amendment. Is that something that we should condition as part of this minor variance
I have that listed.
in the specification? Yeah, that's kind of important.
Perhaps, so could you please read the condition you have?
Certainly, that the owner enter into a site plan agreement with the township to ensure appropriate screening of the outdoor storage areas and to ensure that the development of the subject lands complies with applicable municipal bylaws and policies.
Anything else?
Couple of questions. The trailers are empty. There's nothing in them with the paper. Correct. Yeah, they're being fitted, so we're not. Yeah, that's my question is right. So hazardous goods in them, obviously. So. Yeah, and then the way that the rate for business works is and this is why we bought the outdoor storage. It's a power line. If we get a special deal or anything, so what happens is, one of the trailer companies can get a $100 deal. A lot of these trailers are finished all at the same time. So what actually ends up happening is we receive the trailers. We obviously have the units, but we don't have all the staff to be able to assess if it goes on right away. So it does take us a little bit of time to be able to do so, but that's what we have.
Good, thank you. Other question. What are the abutting uses from the zoning perspective? Again, it's a question of adverse impacts on neighbors. What's towards the, call the north, the top of the page?
It's actually a conservation.
So it's not the zone.
No, and another comment to this as well is McLean Road, which is where the wording of under variance 5 is right there. That's also an undeveloped area. We do say in the future that it could go through. To be honest, it hasn't been zoned. We don't know that, but not knowing what that's going to be, and obviously that's how we actually put as well. But that's why we applied for the money variance. That's what we just spoke about.
And lastly, it's not necessarily a planning question. Does this increase employment in the township?
increasing your capacity? I'm. So that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Good, fair enough. There, shipping containers in the back, what would they be used for?
So these are actually really like shipping containers, they're brand new, they're, and we actually use these for is the units that come in, will have a new component to it, so so copper lines that we have to run for them because these are refrigerated units. We have to store that stuff in. Knowing how our buildings are right now, we don't have enough sufficient storage to be in those. Now these, albeit they're tiny homes, they're beautiful inside, they're very well done. Garage doors on them, in gray, beautiful lock doors on them. They're absolutely. And
And the last question, the large storage area out there, you don't lease that out, it's basically trailers for your business, in other words, you don't have a third party leasing space. All right. Okay, I'm good as well. All right, so let's go through the process. Okay, in the matter of section 45 Planning Act was amended, new comprehensive zoning bylaw 2023 2018 as amended, an application for minor variance requesting use to permit the following. One from section 4.22AI to permit outdoor storage area in the front, in addition to rear and interior side yard. B, to allow 15 meters of setback from lot line abutting the street instead of 20 meters as required. 2, from section 4.22AIII to allow maximum outdoor storage to be 33% of total lot area. 3, from section 4.24.C to permit a shipping container in an interior side yard in addition to a rear yard. 4, from section 5.1.4.8.II to allow loading space to be detached from the building for which it is provided for. And condition that the owner enter a site plan agreement with the township to ensure appropriate screening of the outdoor storage areas and ensure the development of subject plans complies with applicable municipal bylaws and policies. So let's go on the table. Start with you, Paul. Member, Chris? I approve as well. Okay, and it's subject 20 days. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Yeah, 20 days.
That the minor variance decision is made by the committee be approved with the following condition: that the owner enter into a site plan agreement with the township to ensure appropriate screening of the outdoor storage areas and to ensure that development of the subject lands comply with all municipal bylaws and policies.
Okay, I'm moving. Paul, second, Tim. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, so, somebody's signing, we'll just do the, new business. So this is, report. C of A, 2024-005, advisory board, adjust the meeting schedule. Does anybody have any comments or concerns on the dates, proposed? No? Okay, then do you want to have a resolution for that?
Certainly that report CFA 2024-005 be approved by the committee.
Okay, we will. Number, open first, all in favor? Thank you. And the chairman's committee, that's not me, with the resolution.
That the committee of adjustment hereby adjourns at 7:29 PM.
Okay, moving. So, can you land on this again? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so, we're gonna start the, planning and advisory committee meeting. I'd like to call it to order. And we'll start with, roll call. Start with you, Paul. Present. Jim. Amanda. Chris. Present. And I am present as well. Councilor John Stoulis. So, we'll take a moment of reflection. Thank you. When would you read the resolution, please?
That the committee approves the October 8th, 2024 PDAC agenda as circulated.
Please, move on. Over the front. Move, second, all, in favor? Here. And, the consent agenda, resolution.
That the Planning and Development Advisory Committee approves the minutes from the meeting held on August 13th, 2024.
Okay, move it. Second. Chris. Moved by Amanda, second by Chris, all in favor? Great. So, having notice of public meetings or hearings,
No, Mr. Chair, we do not.
I guess, these showing the application, you heard the public meeting?
They will be heard November 27th. The public meeting will be held, I believe, at the community center starting at 7 p.m.
Okay, so no, thank you. Okay, so we'll, start with, I guess we'll be giving, conflict of interest on this one.
No, Mr. Chair, we do not receive any.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we'll start with, London, 9.2 zoning bylaw amendment application, 9.2.1 zoning bylaw amendment application, B14 dash, yes, Jefferson Farms, 86 Farm Road. So, I'd like to point out that this subcommittee's mandate is strictly to provide comments to council when this matter is, forward, before council for consideration. And we'll ask the lawyer to please have the, applicant come and join the call.
Haley? Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Hey, please take your name and address for the record.
Haley Keith from Van Herten Surveying. Not full address. I'm sorry, 2106 Gordon Street.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So you've likely seen this application before, but we were here for a severance about a year ago. Where a 0.4 hectare parcel was severed off for rural residential purposes. One of the conditions of the severance was for zoning and MDS compliance. And so the retained parcel can only dwell in an old barn and a rear accessory building, so on 32 hectares of land, and the parcel is used for agricultural purposes. There's no animals in the barns or any of the buildings, just cash crop. We reviewed MDS to the neighboring barn on 83 Carter Road, and that was fine, everything was met. But we couldn't meet the MDS to the barn on the subject property. So they don't have any livestock in it, they haven't for decades, and they're not planning to have livestock, but in order to keep the barn, we're requesting a zone change to prohibit livestock from the existing barn. And any of the existing farm buildings on the property. And in that, we've already also, requested a zoning relief for the height of the barn. Technically, it would be legal non-conforming, but because we, in the process of this, we've included it as well, so it's 9 meters instead of 7. And otherwise, the remaining zoning requirements are met. We've definitely gone through months of review with township and county staff and consultants, and I think we've included everything, so. If any other questions, please include it.
So, let's see, then are there any registrants that request to speak on this matter?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not receive any.
And were there any, written comments?
No, there were not.
Okay, so, if there are any attendees, watching this, who would like to, give comments, ask questions, they can be heard at a public meeting scheduled for November 27th. And there'll be notifications in the website, where it is in the Okay, so, we're supposed to provide comments to council, so let's go around the table. You can ask questions of the applicant, and then we can formulate, our comments back to council. How would you, Paul?
I'm actually in line with the record. I'm okay on this.
So you would support this?
I would support this.
Yeah, okay. Okay. No.
I don't know if you're sure.
I'm in favor of this, just a clarification question though. The GRCA said there are no changes to the natural fire of the bylaw. I just couldn't, in the material I saw, that wasn't clear to me that it was changed to the new zone, you know, around it. Question.
So, can I?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think there was some confusion at the beginning when we first submitted our draft zoning bylaw. We included a section about the MU zone. And then I think it just caused confusion and the GRCA asked that we change it. So then we submitted a new version and got rid of that because there's no development proposed or, they're keeping that as is. So there was a new version that was circulated, with that wording gone.
Okay, so, I guess, comment we have on the table is that we support the zoning amendment application. Any other comments people like to make? So may I have a move and a second for this? Oh, you mentioned move, second. Seconded by Amanda. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up to that point, $1 million amendment application B14 is the entrepreneur White 4438 Road South. So again, just have the applicant come forward and make the presentation. Please take the name of the for the record.
Hi, my name is Thomas Woodcock. I'm an agent for the applicant, Vince White and Rosemary Scrivener, with residents of 4438 Washington South. I work for a nonprofit conservation agency, the Barrett Charitable Research Preserve. That's a charitable land trust within the region of Waterloo in Washington County. This is in the Bridge, 16 Boyle Road. And we, among other things, conserve land and steward land, make it available for scientific research. Appropriate. And one of the ways to acquire land for conservation is through willing donors like the Scriveners who live on this land for several decades and have grown to love the natural features of farmland, and they wish to see it protected in perpetuity. So in order for that to happen, they needed to sever their dwelling from the 39.3 hectares of conservation land that they wish to donate to us under the Federal Ecological Gifts Program. This is a widely known program for conserving land and also helps Canada meet its protected area targets. And it also assists in local conservation of biodiversity and other ecological services such as clean water, carbon sequestration, nutrient management, biodiversity, and wildlife habitat. So in order for this to be approved, the severance has been granted by the county under conditions. And one of those conditions is the rezoning of this property from agriculture to natural environment, which will allow the assurance to the planners that there will be no future development on this property, which is of course not our intention. There's one structure which is sort of an open barn, which is refurbished. It's been there since approximately 1900, and we find out exactly how long it's been there. And the about 33 acres of farmland, which is leased to a local farmer for hay production. We intend to continue that forward. And the retained home and a large workshop and a shed, which will remain agriculturally zoned, but requires a notification because the workshop where it was built, with all appropriate permits in place, in the late 1990s, was fallen in 70s.
Okay. All right, so, Lynn, are there any registrants who request to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
And did you receive any written comments?
No, we did not.
Okay, and I'll just, mention again, for any attendees watching the hearing and would like to provide comments or questions, that could be heard at the, public meeting scheduled for, November 27th. Okay, so let's start voting on the table. Comments or questions, for this elected, comments directly, to council. So,
I'm supportive of this.
okay, good. Okay, Amanda.
I just had a question. You had mentioned that, one of the intentions for the separate parcel, the parcel is going to be transferred to Rio, that there'll be scientific research conducted on the property. What does that entail?
We do have a lot of research projects that go on our property. They're usually environmental or ecological in nature, so studies of wildlife, studies of water, studies of soil, sometimes studies of agriculture, removal of invasive plants, restoration of ecosystems, things like that. In some cases, where it's appropriate and it's been acceptable to all stakeholders, we, for example, our property in Blair, there's a lot of archaeological resources.
This is a good cause, I don't support, yes.
No one support as well. So, then, table that, comment to council would be that we support the, zoning, bylaw amendment application. Olivia, anything behind us? All in favor? Thank you.
We did have one question. I'll ask it. Because the clock is ticking on some of our funding applications, I was wondering if it is possible to have the public meeting at our own expense.
What we'll do is I'll, take it back and advise you accordingly, type of thing. So I think what, we have one tomorrow night, but that's the two.
Yeah, we have to, put notice in the paper 20 days prior to the meeting date, so. I can look and see when the next one is.
We have council November 6th.
So I can speak with the municipal clerk and see if it's possible to move it up to the November 6th meeting.
I'll give you 20 days.
That will give me,
So,
it's 20 solid days. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to get it to the paper, Thursday, which isn't a problem if they okay it. I'll let you know, Tom.
okay, wonderful. Okay, is there anything to correct it?
It'll help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, okay. All right, so let's move on to, the last one, 9.23, zone amendments application D14-3Y. For now, Dan, 1873 Town Line Road. Forward, the applicant, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Committee, Dave Osman with NHBC Planning, 540 Binghamton Center Drive in Kitchener. And with me this evening is Dan Quinell and members of his family as well. So thanks for the opportunity to share our application with you this evening. I've heard some others, we as well have been working quite hard on staff to get to this point this evening. I have a bit of a presentation to give you, some overview on what's being requested. The zoning bylaw amendment that's being requested, similar to some of the others that you've heard, has come out of condition related to approval of a consent application for the lands for a new lot that would provide for Dan's family to move next door and assist him with the property and with family. So there's a family connection to what we're proposing this evening. And I think that's important for everyone to understand as it relates to the process and what's being proposed. Is someone clicking?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
get the next slide for you.
So, yeah, next slide, please. This just gives you an overview of the property. The application for the use of the lands for outdoor storage is not the whole property. You can see that a good portion of the property has existing vegetation, natural area that would all be maintained. There is a field area, that's agricultural area, that will continue. And then the existing residences will continue, and the area that's subject to the actual application for the use is a little better shown on the next slide, which provides an overview. So you can see the proposed severed lot. It's going to right at where town line turns into the driveway, and many of you probably lived in this area for some time. Town line used to go straight through. This road turned when they built the roundabout with Canterbury Drive, and the access to the site was constructed or constructed/maintained to the criminal property through that process. So there's the orange area on the screen that is where their trailers are currently being stored. Previous zoning bylaws did permit outdoor storage on the lands. The new bylaw that is in place has outdoor storage area, but the language is a little bit different, and that's why we need to deal with the zoning bylaw. So the area in orange is what's being proposed. It's about 2.45 hectares. The severed parcel is about half a hectare or just over an acre. The remaining lands will be approximately 17 hectares. A couple other things to point out on this slide. When the severance was done, delineation of the natural features in the wetlands was completed as part of that process and confirmed. As part of the zoning bylaw amendment for these lands, we also worked with the GRCA to confirm the limits of the wetland as it's shown on the property. And then also as part of this process, the township had the environmental work that was completed peer reviewed by the township environmental consultant. And so through that review and discussions with GRCA was confirmed on the limits of the feature, and the township environmental peer review supported the use subject to some criteria but being put in place, which we built into the zoning bylaw. So with this proposal, there's no new buildings to be built. There's no structures. When we talk about outdoor storage and the storage of trailers, it really is just the storage of camping trailers primarily. There are a few other types of trailers, but primarily it's trailer camping storage. There are no trailers that are motorized, so there's no kind of vehicle campers, if you will. All of them are tow behind trailers on the property, and that's something that we've also written into the bylaw. Just the next slide is the policy framework. And I wanted to just point out that, the lands are in the rural area. They're designated secondary agricultural, so these are not prime agricultural lands. The greenlands and the core greenlands will, the areas subject to the bylaw appear to overlap. As I mentioned, we worked with the township environmental peer reviewer and the GRCA's to confirm the limits of those features in the field. So what's being proposed is actually outside of the greenlands and the core greenland. We don't need an amendment to official plan to refine in that perspective those features on the ground. But to the north of the property, you'll see the greenland area, which kind of reflects some of the existing vegetation to the north of the property. We're respecting that limit of the greenland area. So the previous zoning bylaws, I mentioned it, called the land, it was agricultural and hazard, which was environmental. It permitted a home occupation. Again, home occupation does permit certain types of uses, including storage uses to a certain area. The open storage was permitted accessory to an existing non-residential use or home occupation. So part of the switch then over to the new bylaw was that some of the uses and how they were defined changed. And so we have to pick up kind of a new bylaw to clarify almost the continuation of those existing uses. But in doing so, we wanted to work with the township to make sure that the new bylaw then also put into place specific criteria and area associated with the trailer parking going forward, so that it was confined to that area. And so the other thing that we have done is a conceptual site plan which is the next thank you, identifies, how the layout would occur with the trailer parking. It identifies the wetlands. It identifies the demarcation posts and the setbacks that were established in consultation with the GRCA and the township environmental peer review. This site plan would be turned into a more formal site plan. That would be a requirement to move forward. So the proposed new bylaw is on the next slide. As I mentioned, it's specific to the area that I highlighted in orange. It's changing two parts. An agricultural area to add a site-specific provision, and then the natural environmental area to add a site-specific provision. And that site-specific provision is going to do a number of things to make sure we limit the area of the storage, that we implement the defined required setbacks that we work through with the GRCA, require a 5-meter setback from the survey wetland, require the demarcation posts. So the demarcation posts are being put in place to ensure that when someone comes to park their trailer, they know not to push it too far back into the setback or into the wetland. And then another thing that we have committed to is that the ground material will remain impervious. So there'll be stone or stone dust for the driveway, and then it will be as it is now. So there's no grading, there's no development to occur, and that there'd be no permanent structures permitted in the natural environment. So that's what the bylaw is proposing to achieve. In support of the bylaw, we submitted planning review that reviewed provincial policy, county policy, and then additional planning information where we updated the zoning bylaw to incorporate some of the comments we received through the process, and to provide additional information to the township planner with regard to the proposed use, the intent of the use, and we gave some other examples of these types of uses in Wellington County and in other areas with regard to outdoor storage and the size, and that were similar to what's being proposed. And so we're of the opinion that we're meeting the policy requirements. The bylaw that's being proposed is appropriately defines the space that will be used and how it will be used and protects the natural environment during the wetlands. That's something we focus on with the township environmental review and again, also be happy to answer any questions.
For sure. Turn all over the numbers. Good one.
Just a question around what's being parked there. Are they, so you mentioned they're not motorized. There's no gas or propane or anything involved with these trailers? Like, can you explain that? Like, is there anything, I guess, substances that could impact the environment? I'm just curious if there is any.
Yeah, if you're Mr. Chair, there's no, they're all pull behind, there's no tractor component or vehicle components like, Winnebago, for example, is like dragon and then also camping cart. I think with regard to propane, and maybe, some campers have a propane storage tanks on them, that would be the extent, but there wouldn't be any gas or an oil or anything that can that is anticipated to be an issue.
We'll leave it to my colleagues here. I guess my feedback so far is just that it doesn't feel very accessory to me, but I'm happy to hear my colleagues' feedback on this as well.
Over to you.
That's just further on Paul's question there, what's to prevent future trailers being parked on that could lead to something in place to say, what types of vehicles cannot be parked?
I think our bylaw, this is kind of a summary of it, but our bylaw, the actual formal bylaw, kind of, give me 1 second, because we did specifically speak to that so that it would be, not something critical.
Because as mentioned, it may not be stored now, it could be.
Yes, correct. Let me just find that.
Can I make a comment within maybe?
Well, let's we'll go around to the come back. Perhaps I can help. It says the three says permitted use, the outdoor storage of recreation trailers not including a motorized recreation vehicle.
Correct.
Thank you. It goes on to say outdoor storage will not include the sale, or repair of recreation trailers. No overnight accommodation shall be permitted in the recreational trailer.
And is there any limitations on the number of units?
I don't see that here.
And through this year, we didn't look at a number of units where we were looking us to confine that specific area of the bylaw. But not a total amount of
Anything else? So what I've heard so far is, number 4 is, good, very good.
So if I understand correctly, this use was established in 2006. And at the time, what's being communicated is that the zoning bylaw of the day would have permitted this. At the time.
So that's how we had understood it at the time, through discussions with the building official at the time, that the outdoor storage was something that was permitted.
And at the time, did they go through site plan to recognize this, or the use just existed and there was nothing formally through site plan to recognize it?
So at that time, there was nothing as far as the site plan or even like any other permit or anything required, because nothing really triggered a site plan or a permit with no buildings or structures.
And what's the use to this scale in 2006, or has it expanded?
So it's expanded.
And it might have been mentioned in the materials that the thought of going through the legal non-conforming process to recognize that legal non-conforming. Was that contemplated? And is this just an exercise of the thing being a requirement of the consent? In terms of why it is that the zoning bylaw and the process as opposed to the legal non-conforming process?
So we explored the legal non-conformity process. And, you know, that process in and of itself, through discussions we were having with the township, to be quite honest, probably would have led into, quite a significant adjudicated process. And perhaps without some certainty on even some of the matters that we're trying to deal with now. Like if it was legal non-conforming, the outdoor storage would have just been permitted, say, for example, on the entire property. Because at the time, it didn't specify where that outdoor storage could have occurred, it just was the property. So we kind of went through this zoning process, and not the legal non-conforming process, because there was the condition, there were some discussions with staff on how that's going to go through. And at the end of the day, I guess my opinion would be where we're landing is probably a better scenario, because we've done the environmental work, we've eliminated the wetland, and we know the setbacks. We're kind of defining what the outdoor storage is and where it is, and what it can and can't do. So I think where we're landing with the bylaw would be a better place of control for the township than the legal non-conforming use approach.
And the county of Wellington submitted comments, but this is back, it was quite a while ago, and they expressed some concerns. I think some of them have since been addressed, but do you have formal confirmation from the county that this does conform with the official plan and that you are going to be required to go through an OPA?
Well, we've been in consultation with the county for some time. We've been through kind of three submissions with the township, with the county not advising that there is an official plan amendment required. I don't know how they would get there, because in my opinion, the use is permitted. It's focused on the secondary secondary uses, accessory uses, those types of uses are permitted. So I'm just trying to find it is an older letter, from them. We don't have anything more recent. Maybe we're not expecting something more recent from them, but I haven't seen anything from them. But we haven't heard through the over a year of process that they think one is needed.
Yeah, that's just an concern. I mean, there are some concerns that have been brought to light. I have grown up in the area. This is kind of like an unofficial landmark in Florida. I remember as a kid driving past and seeing all the trailers on the property. So it has existed for quite some time. And I guess my comment would just be, as long as the concerns around the environmental features, the county is satisfied that the LOP is not required. It's existed for so long. I don't know how to go backward. And oh, sorry, one more question. After that. This is obviously coming out of the severance application requirement for the rezoning. Just asking candidly, has there been issues with the neighboring properties in the west? Like you are surrounded primarily by residential, some agricultural. This is a unique use in that area. Has there been issues with neighbors and traffic and, you know, trailers coming in and out? Be mindful of kind of what's in the area.
So, coming into the zoning bylaw, and again, nothing really to hide, there's a received a notice of bylaw infraction of the parking because of the current bylaw. So, the condition of the consent was to resolve that outstanding bylaw issue. So that, our approach was, as you mentioned before, is trying to get a definition of the non-conforming of the zoning bylaw amendment. To our knowledge, there's been no complaints associated with the use. Regional transportation staff, as you saw, did comment and had no concerns. So it exits onto the regional road, and the region had no concerns with the use. So we're not aware of any complaints, and haven't been advised of any from the township. I guess, I don't know if there's any other public comments that have been received through the process, but up to this point, we received no public comment.
That's it for me, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
Picking up a little bit on, previous comments. Well, I struggle a little bit, and I'm going to take on faith that the use was in place when the current bylaw came into existence. But there's a comment, but it's grown since then. And I would argue that the current bylaw would have applied that road, if in fact the permit had been sought at the time. So the parked on gravel, I take it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, gravel. So the encroachment, because of the comment in the azimuth letter to the township, that there have been tree removals without permits. So I get the sense the parking area has grown on an permanent basis and potentially in contravention of the current, of the bylaw at that time, the new bylaw. So I struggle with that part and was trying to, and I think my comment to council would be, we need to see the history of that growth, which I gather can be documented through Google Earth Pro or similar other measures. I wouldn't be opposed to endorsing the request for the zone change based on what it looked like in 2005. Whatever's happened in the current the subsequent 19 years, no one's talked about that. There's a question for you there. What changed? How did it grow? What happened? And that has impacts on buffer zones, the natural environment areas, the wetlands, a whole host of things. That's an open question. So,
Yeah.
if you're able to talk to that, that would be helpful.
Sure, Mr. Chair. So if you take a look in the past, and maybe the site plan, we can put that back up.
Absolutely.
And not too much of detail, but as the uses were kind of more to the front of the property and the front of the property. I guess my thought would be is what we're looking to do is, we recognize that in the past that it was rough, and we're not suggesting, that, this also be permitted as of right, or otherwise we probably would have gone down the legal non-conformity. What we wanted to do is come in and reflect what it is today. And request that what it is today be considered, now and moving forward. And provide some clarity on what it is now and moving forward. So it kind of expanded through the area side. With regard to environmental, like I said, we did work with Azimuth and GRC to tell you many of the features now and ensure that there's a setback and appropriate demarcation to protect that natural environment area. Kind of along the focus on the east side of the property. And then to the north side of the property, the trees that are there existing will remain kind of set off the hills as well. So that's what we're trying to do. I'm hoping I'm not coming across to say, no, apologies, we had this much before, so you should just let us have this. We're kind of trying to just, put into place what it is now and move forward with what we believe really is a use that's not impacting the community. We've done the appropriate natural environment work. And, well, the comment from an accessory, if you look at kind of the size of the use in comparison to the broader parcel, it really is a portion of the 17.
Yeah, I think you're asking for a fair number of deviations from planning bylaw, with the approval of planning at the time. And the next boards. That was really my question. How's it going since 2005? And I think we should probably answer the question. There were no permits sought for those expansions post 2005.
I assume, Mr. Chair, that there's never been permits, because as I mentioned, there's nothing.
Things pre-removal, I would suggest that the information I saw would have required approaches to planning and others.
Okay.
SCA.
Okay,
So
sorry.
there are a number of, one take on this might be, if we're seeking to witness.
Okay.
For past actions. And again, I'm willing to accept the operation existed and we do it. Debate that if it's not, or the post 2005. But I must say, gives me great pause. I also didn't see an environmental impact statement from anyone requesting, and they just saw it. So they just like in the package I saw. So if we have a buffer zone to the natural areas, what does that mean? What are the adverse impacts? So I think in my mind, there's still a lot of information that just isn't there for me to get me to yes. The other thing, if you went back to the bylaw, the draft bylaw, I think it's going to challenge you on two words.
So this is a summary that actually you're not planning. Mr. Chair, what are you reading here? I thought that.
Okay, so I would look at item 3H, which says no grading shall be permitted in the outdoor storage area shall remain impervious material. Impervious is asphalt. I think you'll see it is pretty clear, no asphalt. I would suggest that one needs to be amended to permeable. Or if you wish to be even more specific, gravel.
Sure. Yeah.
And then there's no permanent structure shall be permitted in the natural environment zone. And I would suggest that I challenge the notion of permanent. It should be no structure.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, we would have to modify the bylaw to address both of those on that second. That would be the intent. And maybe just to comment on what level we have. When we were working with the GRCA to delineate the current limits, what I can advise is that Mr. Quennell had previous discussions and walked the site with GRCA with regard to the storage area. And when we worked to the current delineation, we had a couple discussions with GRCA staff on the delineation and an understanding of where the wetland is.
Mm-hmm.
So we had those discussions. So that's been open over time, dialogue with GRCA. The EIS was listed originally as a requirement. Through discussions with the Conservation Authority and the Township Environmental Consultant, it was concluded that the EIS would not be necessary, subject to the delineation of that wetland and the criteria that are implemented in the bylaw. Those were recommendations from the Township Consultant. So agreeing to those, there was agreement that the EIS wouldn't be required to move forward. So I hope that folks that it's not something that we didn't provide. It's something that we worked with the township and the GRCA to address.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I think my comment would be that perhaps the township wants to reconsider its position on the IS. If you unposted since 2005. But that, and
What would the EIS do? How the EIS basically an assessment of what's there now?
well, I think it's telling us what are the, in my model, what are the consequences of not having enough? And there may be negative. Ideally, for the applicant's sake, they are not, they are not. But I don't know, not my, nothing, it wasn't.
Here's the chair, we do have a buffer. It's a 5-year buffer that's been identified in the PPAC and conflict control.
I think it's a reduced buffer. So the bylaw, I understood that. So I'm gonna leave that to get staff expertise. If we're in compliance, then it's a no comment. And if we're not, then comment stands.
And so, Paul, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I guess things came to my mind. It's on Town Line Road in Cambridge, but you drive through Cambridge, so when you look at it, you're feeling like you're in Cambridge. But when you look at this file in theory, this could be anywhere in the township. Secondary zoning. Could be on Hume Drive, Hume Road, could be on 34, Gore Road. My point is, number one, we have to think of it through that lens. Because I think we naturally gravitate towards it being in Cambridge when it's not. That's a pretty important point here because this could be in the middle of some residential or agricultural area and somewhere in the township. So my second point is that not motorized number of units. You could park truck trailers there. That would comply. Reefers, correct? They would.
No. Outdoor storage is recreational.
So is it specifically saying recreational trailers?
Outdoor storage of recreational trailers. And, the ethics says no outdoor storage of trailer parking permitted.
Okay. And the reason I mentioned that is because it's a pretty prominent issue right now, so we have to confirm that wording and make sure it's there. So it's recreational trailers, this is not an easy, I'm not fully supportive of this right now. That's my feedback.
Well, Kim, any other comments or questions now?
I think at this point, making sure that all the environmental, limitations are being met. Especially as it relates to the wetlands, I think that's usually a pretty hefty, limitation. So, and again, I'm just looking at it on my phone, so it's hard to kind of zoom in. I mean, it looks extremely close, like the lot lines look like they almost show at times, over some of the areas. So that would be a concern as to how close it really is to the conservation of the wetlands or make sure that we're protecting everything we can.
You suggest of the DRCA is satisfied and the township environmental consultant is satisfied with that. Assist with someone with tremendous comments.
Well, with all due respect, our members are free to make whatever comments they wish, and, we can decide if we want to make them or not. It'll be up to, the professional staff of the township, whether or not to make any, are they significant enough to, portray and report to council?
Okay, fair enough, so.
Okay, anything else? None.
No, I think I made my point. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. How have you envisioned this, outdoor storage recreation trailers to Like, is it, vision for the next 20 years to have this, or the next, 10 years, or?
Well, I would, I'm not, for Mr. Quinn on this family, but I would say it to continue as long as it's an opportunity for them to continue to use.
And then the number of trailers, that was one of the points made by one of the other members, and I really have a concern about trying to squeeze in as many trailers as you possibly can. I like to put some sort of limit on that.
Okay. And maybe we can do that, maybe, I think, just by a quick aerial photo count, having done an actual count, and maybe something with the phone to do get it count. We were trying to do it by an area, but if there was a count, a trailer count, that's maybe something we can look at doing to insert into the bylaw. And sorry, also to make sure that our board doesn't allow transport trailers. We don't want that. And just to make sure, so that's something that we can look at. But we probably could look at a count. And insert them on the bottom, and we don't from the normal 200 with the something like that.
Okay. I would turn that around. My comment, I would make it something like so many square feet permitted per trailer type of thing. In other words, and then it's based on the area you have. And I don't know what you might have to do. Okay, so that would be my thought. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just summarize our comments that we'd be making. So this number of trailers, the comment could be consider square number of trailers based on square footage per trailer for that area. Work for you, rather than the entire amount?
Not for me. I want a little more restrictive, but because I just, again, like, if I'm living next door somewhere anywhere in the township, and my neighbor comes and rips down trees and is parking 300 trailers next door, I'm not a happy camper. Right? So
I hear what you're saying.
we're setting a precedent. I think we're setting a precedent here for the township, in my opinion, on this file. So I'm gonna maybe just not comment, because that's where I sit on that.
Okay, so I'll just know other committee members, so would you be amenable to basing it number of trailers based on allotting a certain square footage per trailer? That can designate how much is appropriate, including road and road. Okay, so let's go back up here. Yeah, the other question I had was Cambridge. Has Cambridge been asked to comment on this?
Okay, Mr. Chair, yes. Circulation and they have no concern.
Okay, fine, thank you. All right, so the other comments I had was the bylaw to include gravel and no structures of any sort, permanent or temporary. And then between you and him, I picked up the concern that the environmental requirements have to be not specially related to wetlands, whether an EIS is required or not, that's up to staff. Okay, and you have to put them?
I would just want confirmation from the county that an OPA isn't required.
Okay, that was good.
And that, if the zoning bylaw amendment is approved, that a condition of the zoning bylaw amendment would be that site plan.
So the commission violated the site plan, okay, and on itself, the another comment I had in that regard was that You know, I guess the first water protection comments will be part of the, what you say, which is some phone call, that's what we think. Okay, so, go ahead.
One of the was. We have to give you clarity on what this looks like. Again, the zoning bylaw thing.
Okay,
And what are we being asked to do here, and are we inclined to do so?
okay, fair enough, so, then we can clarify perhaps like something consideration should be given to establishing the extent of force permitted at that time in 2005 versus the growth to date, and whether the increased growth since 2005 or any thereof could be permitted.
We want to slightly change the storage existing in 2005. Well, I'm going to go on favor because it's just been,
Yeah,
based
fine.
on the commentary provided.
Okay, once we got a lot to read,
Yeah, I need,
and then feel free to jump in and number.
yeah, I'll need, that last, comment that you had regarding the extent of roads existing in 2005, an increased growth since 2005, but I'm,
Okay, provide the basis of the permitted storage in 2005 and the expanded growth to date. And whether or not there should be consideration to accepting the entire expanded growth or just a portion thereof. I'd like to approach it that, the majority of members, suggested that. So for the time now, the majority of members just to call in.
okay, so consideration for the number of toe behind trailers based, on the property, based on allowing a certain amount of
Let's
square.
have a lead in the committee, majority committee, determine the following comments, should be made available to council.
Consideration for the number of tow behind trailers based on allowing a certain amount of square footage per trailer.
And associated, access to it.
Access roads.
Okay, go ahead, next one.
Condition of approval is that the property goes through site plan approval.
Okay.
Confirmation that a county OP is not required.
Okay.
Provide a basis of the permitted storage in 2005 and the expanded growth to date, and whether or not there should be consideration to accept the entire expanded growth.
So portion thereof. Okay, and then the, proposed zoning bylaw.
To prohibit structures, and also the wording should be changed in the bylaw from non-permeable to permeable materials. The township should consider the need for an EIS. All environmental.
Well, they consider the need for TIS to ensure the environmental requirements are being met, especially as related to wetland. Okay, so let's go through it again.
Cleaning things up here. Okay, consideration,
Start at the beginning. Majority of
the committee has the following comments. Consideration of the number of tow behind trailers based on allowing a certain amount of square footage per trailer and associated access roads. Condition of approval, of the zoning bylaw is that the property goes through site plan approval. Confirmation that a county OPA is not required. provide a basis for the permitted storage in 2005 and the expended growth to date, and whether or not there should be consideration to accept the entire expended growth or a portion thereof. And the bylaw should be a change to prohibit structures on the property and wording change from non-permeable to permeable materials. And the township should consider the need for an EIS to ensure the environmental requirements are being met as it relates to the wetlands on the property.
Okay, so with that, okay, mover, second. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, so that's it.
Good, I didn't want to interrupt the program, but just to clarify. When you talk about no new structures on the property, you're meaning within the area that we're imposing the zone.
Natural environment. is my point.
Yes,
So look
okay.
at it's within the area, yeah, we're not talking
Okay,
about the
yeah.
servants, the
Good.
servants are something else.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, fair enough, on that one, so let's move on to staff reports.
The one thing I should have mentioned,
Sure.
for both the consideration for the dates for next year, we did have to change the November date to the Wednesday because Remembrance Day is on Tuesday. I just wanted to make that clear that that's where that change came from.
Okay, so, some of the dates are the same as the previous, report?
Yes. That
Okay,
was the
so,
only one that changed.
okay, so I have a move and a second for this, moved by Chris, second by Paul, all in favor? Okay, any correspondence?
Yeah, we don't know.
No new business, anybody have new business going on the table? I guess we just, welcome Kim to the table, on the whole board. And, I'm sorry,
Come as a doozy.
didn't bring the coffee, Bill. All right, so, the last item, then,
But the Planning and Development Advisory Committee hereby adjourned at 8:33 PM.
okay, mover. Kim, second, Paul, all in favor?